Mahatma Gandhi once told, the best way to find oneself is to lose oneself in the service of others. A very warm welcome to all our distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, parents, ex-students, members of the Julian Day School family, and everyone to our webinar, All Heroes Do Not Wear Capes. Interestingly, this webinar seeks to justify this statement both practically and theoretically. We have today with us three guest speakers, no celebrity, but they have been doing extraordinary deeds every day. They are helping others with the sake of helping without wishing to gain something in return. We shall hear from them that how and what keeps them motivated amidst all these challenges. Our panelists, psychologist on one side and psychiatrist on the other, would tell us what keeps all these warriors motivated, and they have deep aspects and long studied aspects of human nature and personality, and would tell us that about the underlining common basic factor which keeps all the ordinary folk the impetus to do extraordinary things in an extraordinary way. And to start with, we have prepared a short video indicating the underlining common factor among all these champions.
Hi, Praveen ma'am. Thank you for inviting me on this platform. Really, really grateful for this. It's quite exciting to be here, seeing every one of you, and it's reminding me of my own school days, wearing, seeing you all wearing the uniform and as an activist at the moment because I just started working for this issue last year itself during the COVID lockdown. So I was working in Delhi before that, and I came back to Calcutta in the last year to work on unsterilized cloth strips. So can everyone hear me, or am I unmuted? Muted.
No, ma'am, we can hear you.
Okay. So I realized that women started using unsterilized cloth strips due to the pandemic, and since there were no resources for them, and there was a shutdown of the sanitary production as well. So I went to these slums. I asked these women that why didn't they prioritize their menstrual health? Why don't they prioritize their reproductive and sexual health? So I discovered that Calcutta, there are women who don't think that menstruation is an important part of their life, and they should prioritize it. So this was my motive that active and they try it and they'll know how comfortable it is and how hygienic it is. So along with my sessions, I also distribute these products. I also wanted to distribute sustainable methods, explain them about sustainable options as well. But the sanitation and hygiene condition is still very poor in these slums, and it's not a possibility for them. It's a really big privilege for them. So I think I'll keep doing these things, and I'll ask them to use more sustainable options and prioritize their health much more.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your views. Ma'am, speaking of menstrual health, it is a topic which is somewhat considered as a social taboo. Even women are very uncomfortable to talk about menstrual health and hygiene which they're supposed to maintain during their menstrual cycle. So, ma'am, being a woman yourself, what were the challenges which you actually faced in bringing up this topic and in spreading social awareness about a subject which is not really quite talked about, and people are often very shy to discuss about it? We would like to hear about this, ma'am. We'd love to hear your views.
So yes, it was a really big challenge for me to go around these places, talk about menstruation to these women. There were big challenges to me as when I started distributing the products, men were coming out of their houses and asking me not to do these shameful acts and asked me to go back and not carry out these sessions as well. Whenever I'm doing my menstrual sessions, women don't want to speak about it. They are feeling shy. They're always shy about it. It's really difficult, and it's not possible in one session to explain it to them, to ask them to speak more about it. And it takes around 3 to 4 sessions for me to make them comfortable and make them more comfortable so that they can speak about their issues. They can tell me what is happening, what is not, if they should visit the doctors, if it's a grave issue for their health. So it's really difficult. People still don't want to talk about it. Even girls and boys from privileged society, they don't want to talk about menstruation. It's still a taboo. We don't talk about it. We shy away from it. And our parents don't tell clearly what it is, what is going on in our body until we read it in our biology books. So it's really difficult. Still in India, it's really difficult in metropolitan cities. And I wonder what would be the scenario for the rural areas if we living in Calcutta still don't want to talk about menstruation or sexual health.
Thank you, ma'am. Your efforts are indeed commendable, ma'am. We are really honored to have you here today. I would now like to call over my friend, Mondrul Sharkar. Mondrul, you can kindly take over from here.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, Mondrul, you're completely audible.
Thank you. শুভেচ্ছা যাকে আমরা এবং তিনি হলেন তাকে এই ওয়েবিনারে আমরা আমন্ত্রণ জানাতে পেরে ধন্য। শিল্পী, তিনি একজন এবং তিনি ডান্স ডিপ্লোমা মুভমেন্ট থেরাপি নৃত্য বিভিন্ন শারীরিক এবং মানসিক কিছু যে সমস্যা সেগুলো থেকে মানুষকে বের করে আনার যে প্রক্রিয়া সেটাই বোধহয় ডান্স মুভমেন্ট থেরাপি, এবং তিনি মানুষের অধিকার নিয়েও কাজ করছেন। আর যে জন্য আজকে আমরা ওনাকে দেখেছি সেটা হলো এই করোনা মহামারীর সময়, এই লকডাউনের সময় উনি একটি অনন্য দৃষ্টান্ত স্থাপন করেছেন। উনি করোনা আক্রান্ত মানুষদেরকে খাবার দিয়ে, খাদ্য দিয়ে, কুক ফুড দিয়ে সাহায্য করেছেন। কিভাবে করেছেন এই কাজটা এবং কি অনুপ্রেরণা ছিল, কিভাবে তিনি এই পুরো কাজটাকে এগিয়ে নিয়ে গেছেন, এই পুরো প্রসেসটাকে তিনি এগিয়ে নিয়ে গেছেন, এই সমস্ত কিছু জানানোর জন্য আমি তাকে অনুরোধ করছি। শ্রাবস্তী ঘোষ, আপনি যদি বলেন যে কিভাবে আপনি পুরো প্রক্রিয়াটা এগিয়ে নিয়ে গেছেন এবং কি অনুপ্রেরণা যেটা আপনাকে অনুপ্রাণিত করেছে এই কাজটি এগিয়ে নিয়ে যেতে, এই কাজটি করতে। আমি আপনাকে অনুরোধ করছি আমাদের সাথে সেটা একটু ভাগ করে নেওয়ার জন্য।
প্রথমত অনেক ধন্যবাদ সকলকে প্রথম ডাকার জন্য, এবং এত সুন্দর সকলে মিলে একটা অনলাইন মিডিয়ামটা তো খুব কঠিন একটা মাধ্যম, তো সেখানে সবাই একসঙ্গে থাকার জন্য অনেক ধন্যবাদ। হ্যাঁ, আমি যে কাজটা করেছিলাম সেটা এখন অনেকেই জানতে পেরেছে। সেটা হচ্ছে আমরা তো দেখতে পেয়েছি যে না হলে যেটা হয় যে আমাদের প্রথমত দুটো জিনিস হয়। একটা হচ্ছে অশক্তি অত্যন্ত দুর্বল করে দেয়, যেটা যে কোনো কাজ করা থেকে কাজ করাকে একটু করে তোলে, এবং সঙ্গে সঙ্গে যেটা হয় যে যেহেতু এটি একটি সংক্রামক ব্যাধি, তাই যিনি আক্রান্ত বা যিনি আক্রান্ত নন কিন্তু তার পরিবারের সকলেরও বাইরে বেরোনো, বাজার করা, এগুলো বন্ধ হয়ে যায়। তো আমি দেখছিলাম যে আমার চারপাশে এমন অনেকে আছেন যারা এটা করতে পারছেন না, তাদের পক্ষে প্রত্যেকদিন রান্না করা বা বাজার করা খুব মুশকিল হয়ে যাচ্ছে করোনা আক্রান্ত। তো তখন আমার মনে হয়েছিল যে তাদেরকে এবং যেটা হয় যে ভীষণ পুঁজির ঘাটতি কারণে খেতে হয়। তো তাহলে এই সময়টায় এটা তো একটা সাধারণ স্বাভাবিক প্রয়োজনের মধ্যে পড়ে খাদ্যটা, তাহলে সেইটা কিভাবে পৌঁছে দেওয়া যায়, কিভাবে তার যোগান দেওয়া যায়। তো তখন আমি এবং আমার মা আমাদের বাড়িতে প্রথমে শুরু করেছিলাম 15 জনকে দিয়ে। আমার অঞ্চলের আশেপাশে, আমি উত্তর কলকাতায় থাকি, তো সেই উত্তর কলকাতার আশেপাশে যারা করোনায় আক্রান্ত তাদেরকে খাবার পৌঁছে দেওয়ার একটা, আমাকে শোনা যাচ্ছে? একটু কেউ বলবে?
Yes, ma'am.
এখন তো সবাই পরে যেটা দেখা যায় যে প্রায় ঠিক 1 ঘন্টার মধ্যে থেকেই বহু বহু আসতে থাকে, এবং প্রথম দিনের পরে 50 হয়ে যায়, মানে 50 জনের দুবেলার খাবার। তো সেটা পরবর্তী 51 দিন চলে। এরকমই একটা কাজ আসলে করার চেষ্টা করেছিলাম। আমি জানি না যে সেটা অত্যন্ত মহান কাজ কিনা, কিন্তু আমার মনে হয়েছিল যে একজন নাগরিক হিসেবে এটা আমার দায়িত্বের মধ্যে পড়ে করাটা। এবং আমার এখনো মনে হয় যে আমরা যদি সবাই ছোট ছোট করে একটু এগিয়ে আসতে পারি তাহলে অনেক বেশি সংখ্যক মানুষ উপকৃত হতে পারবে, কারণ চাহিদাটা তো অনেক। আর আমি এটাও জানি না যে কোনো অসামান্য কাজ করেছে কিনা, কারণ আমাদের যেগুলো দায়িত্ব আমরা চারপাশে সেগুলো যদি একটু কম পালন করি তাহলে যে একটু ঠিকঠাক করে পালন করে ফেলে তাকে খুব অনন্য সাধারণ মনে হয়, কিন্তু সেটা বোধহয় নয়। কারণ আমি যেটা করেছি সেটা আদৌ খুব একটা আলাদা কাজ নয়। এটা আমাদের আমার আশপাশে যখন কেউ অসুস্থ হবে আমি তাকে খাবার দেব না, তেমনি এই আশপাশটাকে একটু বাড়িয়ে দিলে আরো অনেকের কাছে পৌঁছানো যায় যাদের প্রয়োজন। তো এরকমই একটা কাজ করার চেষ্টা করেছিলাম।
Well, heroes in our perspective are the people who work selflessly for the betterment of the society without expecting anything in return, be it social, be it an economic return, or be it name and fame. These people work in the shadows most of the time without the deliberation of name and fame. What gives these real heroes the impetus to work selflessly most of the times? What gives them the motivation to work in the shadows and to never have their names exposed despite doing civic good all the time? Let us find out. Today, we are extremely honored to have with us for this session Ms. Aksa Mushtaque. Ma'am works as a menstrual health activist, and ma'am currently runs a campaign called Free the Period, where ma'am visits urban slums and educates women about menstrual and reproductive health. Ma'am also distributes free sanitary products, and along with this, ma'am runs an organization called Azad Aurat Foundation. Ma'am, we cannot wait to hear from you. If you could kindly tell us something about yourself and
শুনে
your
আমি আপনাকে একটা প্রশ্ন করতে চাই, সেটা হলো এই ভয়ঙ্কর মহামারীর পরিস্থিতিতে যে আপনি আপনার প্রাণের ঝুঁকি নিয়েছেন, জনসাধারণের মধ্যে প্রয়োজনীয় সামগ্রী বিতরণ করেছেন, আপনাকে এই কাজটি করতে কি অনুপ্রাণিত করলো এবং কোনো এনজিও বা সংস্থা কি আপনাকে সহায়তা করেছে? তো এই ব্যাপারে আমাদের যদি কিছু বলতে
तो
পারেন।
हमारे अगले अतिथि भी युवा वर्ग से हैं। आपने उच्च माध्यमिक तक शिक्षा श्री जैन विद्यालय से प्राप्त की। ग्रेजुएशन बीबीए में बीपी पोद्दार इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मैनेजमेंट एंड टेक्नोलॉजी से और एमबीए आईआईपीएम न्यू दिल्ली से किया है। आप व्यवसायी हैं, टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री से संबंधित है। परिचय को बहुत आगे नहीं बढ़ाते हुए मैं आपके कर्तृत्व के बारे में थोड़ा सा बताना चाहता हूं। आपने मात्र 21 वर्ष की आयु में 2006 में पहली बार एसडीपी डोनेशन किया। तब से लेकर अब तक 98 बार 98 टाइम्स आप एसडीपी डोनेट कर चुके हैं। ब्लड डोनेशन भी साथ और पहले से चलता रहा है। सेंचुरी के करीब आप मेरे जैसे बहुतों की प्रेरणा हैं, आइडल हैं। व्यक्तिगत रूप से आप नेचुरोपैथ प्रैक्टिशनर या प्राकृतिक चिकित्सक जिसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं, आप वो भी हैं। इस रूप में जो भी आपके संपर्क में आता है आप उनको अपनी सेवाएं देते हैं। आज उपस्थित श्रोताओं में भी कोई यदि नेचुरोपैथी का लाभ उठाना चाहता है तो सौरभ जी से संपर्क कर सकते हैं। आप प्रतिवर्ष 5 बच्चों की पढ़ाई लिखाई का वित्तीय भार भी वहन करते हैं, स्पॉन्सर करते हैं और भी संस्थाओं से जुड़कर विभिन्न रूपों में अपनी सेवाएं समाज को प्रदान कर रहे हैं। तो एसडीपी डोनेशन क्या है, इसकी जरूरत किन्हें होती है और पहली बार डोनेशन के पहले क्या चुनौतियां होती है, क्या उत्सुकता होती है और डोनेशन के बाद भावनाएं क्या होती है, प्रस्तुत करने के लिए मैं सौरभ जी श्यामसुखा को आमंत्रित करता हूं। सौरभ जी, स्क्रीन इज योर्स।
And giving me the honor for the school. First of all, I would like to thank all the teachers, the dignitaries over here for having the patience to listen to me, and I would seek forgiveness from each and every member present over here, since I would be using 2 languages at the same time, that is Hindi, और साथ में हिंदी और इंग्लिश का दोनों का मैं प्रयोग मैं करूंगा, जो कि हिसाब से लैंग्वेज के अगेंस्ट में है, मगर सारे के सारे श्रोताओं के लिए या सुनने वालों के लिए ये आसान रहेगा समझने के लिए। तो सुजय, आपने मेरे को एसडीपी डोनेशन के ऊपर बोलने के लिए कहा है। आपने मेरे को फिर कहा कि ये किनको रिक्वायरमेंट होती है, फिर आपने मेरे को कहा बताने के लिए कि पहले और बाद का इसका अपने लोगों का मन में कैसा रहता है, कैसा लगता है, और लास्टली आपने कहा कि मेरे को क्या चीज मोटिवेट करती है, मैं वो भी तो लेट्स स्टार्ट। एसडीपी डोनेशन में सिंगल डोनर प्लेटलेट डोनेशन होते हैं। दिस प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड एप्रीहेसिव प्रोसेस। यहाँ पे अपने को एक 3 से कर दिया है, जिसमें अपने लोग 1 से 1.5 घंटा कनेक्ट रहते हैं। पुरानी मशीन है तो इस 1.25 घंटा तक भी लग सकता है, नई मशीन है तो 43-44 मिनट्स में भी अपना डोनेशन कंप्लीट हो जाता है। तो अगर स्टार्टिंग से स्टार्ट करें तो इस प्रोसेस को करने के लिए अपने लोगों का प्लेटलेट काउंट शुड बी मोर देन 1,50,000। अगर प्लेटलेट काउंट उसके नीचे हो तो हमारा एसडीपी डोनेशन हो नहीं सकता है। सेकेंडली, इसमें अपने लोगों का एचआईवी रिपोर्ट्स, हेपेटाइटिस रिपोर्ट्स, ये सब भी नेगेटिव आना चाहिए। अगर इसमें से कोई भी चीज पॉजिटिव आती है तो अपने लोग एसडीपी डोनेशन नहीं कर सकते हैं। तो स्टार्टिंग में वो लोग अपने से ब्लड सैंपल लेते हैं, जिसका रिपोर्ट आने में कम से कम 1.5 घंटा का समय लगता है। तो ये नहीं जाते, बैठना, उसके बाद 1.5 घंटे को रहना कनेक्टेड। तो हम लोग बहुत कोशिश करते हैं, सबको समझाते हैं, और जो जाते हैं वो लौट के आने बाद में यही बोलते हैं कि मैं नेक्स्ट टाइम से एसडीपी डोनेशन ही करूंगा, मैं और कुछ नहीं करूंगा। ये एक बहुत है, क्योंकि ठीक है, ये एक चीज हुई। प्रोसेस को मैंने पहले बता दिया कि ये एक एप्रीहेसिव प्रोसेस है। ये अपने जिस मशीन पे कनेक्टेड होते हैं वो मशीन में प्लाज्मा भी एक्सट्रैक्ट किया जा सकता है, व्हाइट ब्लड सेल्स भी एक्सट्रैक्ट किया जा सकता है, और आज के डेट में जो बोन मैरो का जो काम होता है वो भी इस मशीन से एक्सट्रैक्ट किया जा सकता है। एसडीपी डोनेशन में अपने लोगों का वो ब्लड को एक्सट्रैक्ट करते हैं, ब्लड को एक्सट्रैक्ट करने के बाद में मशीन उसको प्रोसेस करता है, प्रोसेस करके मशीन अपने ब्लड को वापस अपने बॉडी के अंदर में दे देता है। तो ये बेसिकली अराउंड अबाउट 8 लीटर्स टू 10 लीटर्स ऑफ ब्लड वगैरह जैसी बीमारी में प्लेटलेट की रिक्वायरमेंट होती है। अच्छा, व्हाट कीप्स अस मोटिवेटेड? व्हाट कीप्स अस मोटिवेटेड इज आफ्टर डोनेशन, जब हम पेशेंट पार्टी से मिलते हैं, उनका जो प्यार हमें मिलता है उस समय, वो चीज हम लोगों को मोटिवेटेड रखती है। देयर लव, देयर फीलिंग्स कीप्स अस मोटिवेटेड बिकॉज एसडीपी donors are very, very hard to find. Thank you. I would end over here.
Thank you so much, Saurabh sir, for sharing with us the experience, the know-how of the process. And before and after, like I have also donated twice, but I wouldn't have been able to put it the way you have put across. And we are honored to have you here. So we have now seen the practical aspect. Now we seek to understand the minds of these heroes. You know, to actually psychologically know that what motivates them, what is common amongst them. So I now call upon Sanj Banerjee to take over from here and invite our panelists for the next part of our session. Sanj, over to you.
Thank you, Shujay Bhaiya. Very good afternoon to everyone. I hope I'm audible. We heard from our field workers we have today the challenges they face and how they tackle them. Now, as it was indicated in the beginning, we seek to know what is common in all such heroes and people alike. To shed light on this, we have Dr. Vinay Mishra, sir, with us, who is a psychologist, trainer, a professor of psychology. He holds the distinction of being one of the first Indian psychologists to study human behavior in Antarctica as a member of the 20th Indian Scientific Expedition to the South Pole. Dr. Vinay Mishra was the first position holder in the state of Madhya Pradesh in his intermediate exam. He also had the distinction of being a university topper at both graduate and postgraduate levels. He was also a National Merit Scholar. Dr. Vinay Mishra was selected for the Combined Defense Services by the UPSC, but chose to pursue academics. In addition to academics and research, Dr. Vinay Mishra has been trained has been a cultural ambassador of India to the United States of America. He is also trained by the Center of Sex Education and Parenthood on Sex Therapy and has put it to relevant use while working with the Family Planning Association of India. He has several books written for the FPAI head office in Mumbai and had trained doctors in Sri Lanka on adolescent sexuality. Additionally, he has been trained in theme-centered interaction in Switzerland. Dr. Vinay Mishra had been on a scholarship on the Denver International Program to the United States of America to study psychotherapy. Dr. Vinay Mishra regularly writes for several local and national dailies on relevant aspects of psychology. His book, Everyday Psychology, had been launched in 2017. His new book, Dainik Jeevan Mein Manovigyan, had been launched last year. Wow, we certainly have a lot to learn from you, sir. My question to you is, how does altruism help us to see a better version of ourselves in the future? And how does helping others help oneself? The screen is all yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Sanj, for that very elaborate introduction. I wish it was shorter, leaving me with more time to interact with a group that I'm absolutely comfortable with, namely all those young people. I want to thank Julian Day School, the chairman, the principal, the staff, as well as the counselor, Ms. Sonali, who got in touch with me. And as you might probably understand, that I'm joining from another state, from a city called Bhopal, where I'm a professor and a practicing psychologist. Well, how wonderful to know about the work that these three people have done in their life and at such young age. Well, I'm sure that they would be inspirations for all those people who are hearing them, and also the parents who might have joined in, and possibly the staff as well. So, as a psychologist, let me bring in a few aspects without making it look like a class. I'm sure you've had enough of classes. Let's make it something that would be more understandable and relatable in real life. So when we talk about altruism, we are basically talking about what these three people have done. And when we talk about these capes, right? So as the title of this webinar was that not all heroes wear capes, right? In fact, I would say that if you wear a cape the way the Superman wears, you're going to look really funny there, right? So the definition of a hero is someone who really does not wear a cape, but does things that are possibly as humanitarian, as wonderful as what Superman comics have demonstrated, but in reality, in real life. And that's where the challenge comes in, right? Let's start with the absolute here and now situation. And I'm absolutely aware that the kind of aftermath of the pandemic and the suspicions about, how things are going to open up and whether the schools would really be functional the way they were prior to the pandemic really surrounds us all the time, right? However, there are a few lessons that I've learned, and I'll in some way relate it to the topic that we are on at this particular point of time. In my opinion, I've learned numerous lessons in these 1 year, 4 months that the pandemic has been on, altering our lives so very strangely. One of those things that I seem to really have learned is or altruistic behavior, right? Now, when we talk about altruistic behavior, let me bring in something extremely important here, which is from my domain, that is psychology. I'm a professor and a practicing psychologist. And here's where I'm going to be linking up a few important things. So when we talk about good mental health, what is it that contributes to mental health? And in order to get you to understand something that you might have often heard but may not really know much about, and that is mental health, let me bring in the World Health Organization definition here. So when we talk about mental health, we are basically talking about a sense of well-being, right? A sense of feeling good about yourself, right? Where you realize you're individual. So I could see Sujoy and Mandarin and other people, speaking, right? So that's about you're in some way utilizing the capability and the potential that you have, right? Also, that when you cope with normal stresses of life, right? Then someone kept, wondering whether they were audible or they were not, right? Or whether one of your resource persons got locked out. These are the stresses of everyday life. Where did I misplace my key? Where is one of my socks? It's not seen anywhere. What about my school tie? I kept it here, but it's all lost. These are things when we manage in the right spirit, because it's going to be a part of our life. Well, in some ways, we are talking about the fact that we can cope up with the normal stresses of everyday life, and also to finally be productive members of community. Now, while you study in schools, or while your parents take care of yourself, or while your teachers teach and your school administration runs their work, they are very powerfully contributing to the community, right? So, three things: realizing your potential, managing stress in everyday life, and contributing to society, all powerfully pool into what we call as the sense of well-being, or in other words, mental health, right? Now, let me bring in a few more things here. And for that, I need to bring in a data that might really be surprising for young people like you. When we talk about how many people are impacted by psychological ill health, again, quoting the World Health Organization figures, there are 450 million people who suffer from psychological disorders. So do remember, those people that you see with matted hair and dirty clothes on the roadside are not the only ones who have psychological disorders. In fact, they constitute a very minuscule percentage of people who have psychological disorders. When we talk about the larger domain of psychological disorders, we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about depression, we're talking about obsessions, compulsions, and things of that kind, right? And not extreme abnormal behavior. And how loosely we use the word mad, right? We almost use it as an abuse. Are you mad, right? And things of that kind. Well, if there's one thing that you should pick up from this seminar is really not use that word so loosely, because that's exactly what stigmatizes the people from reaching out for help. Would you know that 1 out of 5 people in a country like ours, crisscross the entire length, breadth, has a psychological disorder? And you might just wonder, but they are not seen anywhere. I don't even know that people have psychological disorders. Well, let me correct you here. Not all psychological disorders are visible, or the person who is sitting next to you on your school desk may have a psychological disorder. You may not even know about it, right? And here's where another important thing really comes in, and that is approximately 50% of psychological disorders really make a beginning in the adolescent age group. Do remember that time from 11 to 19, and I'm sure most of you would fall under that slot. Why does it happen so commonly during that particular age group? That's because your personality is developing. You're becoming an individual in your own right? You're freeing yourself from parental controls, right? And that's exactly where how you perceive certain things really comes to impact you. So 50% of psychological disorders really make a beginning at this particular point, which is what really is to be importantly understood in the context of altruism. For I'm going to highlight in a moment what might be the characteristics that contribute to good mental health, right? The first thing is to feel good about yourself, right? So to not keep comparing yourself with other people. So there are all kinds of people around. Remember when your father used to say, oh, in our times, we used to go to the school on a bicycle. And say, oh, who goes to school on bicycle anymore? Or if your mom would say, oh, when I went to school, I cooked in the kitchen and then I went to school, and say, oh, it doesn't happen anymore, right? Well, the point that I'm trying to make here is how annoying it is to get compared to other people, right? So there is no one like you on planet Earth, right? On Mars, I'm not so sure, right? So we are exploring Mars, so there might be someone like you, but definitely not on planet Earth. The point that I'm trying to make is stop comparing ourselves. Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, some of us have a certain skin color, others have another skin color, hair texture, just about everything, right? So what are we talking about? There's no one like us. So what's the point comparing? Why? Because it prevents you from feeling good about yourself. I'm a complete person. I'm going to maximize my potential, manage my stress, and contribute meaningfully to society. That's how I'm going to grow. I'm also able to meet the demands of life is another thing that contributes significantly to mental health. Also, that I'm optimistic, right? What about your results, right? Are you thinking about, how would I fare in, a certain assignment that is given to me, or maybe the terminals, if that's the case in your school, right? Well, you have to be optimistic. You also have to be optimistic about the fact that the pandemic is going to come to an end, right? Do remember that this is a pandemic in which the vaccine has been found in the shortest possible time, right? So we are at, our sort of, best when it comes to really putting an end to something that's impacted us so seriously. Also, that you can go and change to so many things that surround you. Recall how when your classes went online, the difficulties that you had, you suddenly found your bandwidth low, you realized that you were muted, but you still were talking and no one heard you, right? You probably put your video on off while everyone was expecting you there. And those difficulties in submitting assignments, didn't you really learn some very powerful lessons in the last 1 year, 4 months? You did, so did I, right? Teaching students online became quite a challenge for me, right? Do remember, you all are younger people, you can adapt far more easily than me, right? But adaptability really contributes significantly to mental health. Also, what really joins in with altruism is another very important aspect of mental health, and that is that you are comfortable with people and that you can be a member of a team, right? That's where I think doing things for other people, helping other people out, being a part of what other people do and contributing your bit to it doesn't really just improve your mental health, but significantly brings about the altruism in you, right? So while we are talking about altruism, let's not forget, as I said, that I'm not wearing a cape and neither can I see any one of you wearing one, right? So does it really have to unfold in certain big things that we do? No, it can actually be right inside your classroom, right? And you might ask, altruism, pro-social behavior in class, how? The answer to that is very simple. For example, if you would, your classes, I believe, might be online, and if you would probably create a Google Drive where all the kind acts done by your classmates could be there, right? Everyone could pool in there. Okay, so and so helped me with notes. So and so explained a particular mathematical formula. So and so explained the meaning of a particular word, or just called me because I looked a little pulled down. Well, those are things that can go on a Google Drive that would be accessible to everyone. It definitely can be in the form of a bulletin while the schools open up, where you could pin up some of these great acts that have been done by people. And when I say great, I'm not talking about real big acts. Those small acts of kindness are also great. Why? Because it's great for the person for whom you did that. So do not undermine even the very smallest things that you're capable of doing for other people. Let me tell you that in my class, I have something called as the gratitude jar. And I was telling you about how it can be used in classroom. Gratitude jar in my class is something which is a glass jar, and I have very colorful slips on which people would write good lessons that they have learned from life, right? The writer here is good lessons, right? What is it that's worked for me? What is it that's impacted me? That really goes in there, and in due course of, as the session unfolds, the jar gets full because the slips are all there and people would keep adding to it. And whenever we find a student in distress, we would actually take the jar, give it to the person, and tell him to sit quietly and read the lessons that other people have learned in their lives. I think that's a very meaningful way of letting other people know about what works in life, right? So, point that I'm saying is that it need not take on big acts. It could start with small deeds of kindness done to people at home, in neighborhood, with your own classmates, and me that really qualifies as altruism, right? So let me end at this particular point and you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, a student, Rajnandani, has a question for you. Rajnandani, please go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
So you spoke about common stress being a part of our life and coping with it. So, sir, I have a question for you. That is, in our generation, we don't get sad, we get depressed. And anxiety, depression, stress are the watchwords of our generation. We often talk about these terms, but don't actually know what they mean or how we can overcome with it. So, sir, I would like you to explain on how altruistic traits help our generation to cope up with it.
Okay, so your generation is Generation Z, right? As if there was going to be no generation after you, right? Well, a Generation Z is a generation that people like us are very envious of, right? Because you all are such smart people. You're such tech-savvy people who can beat us hollow with your understanding of several things, right? So it's not that the Generation Z really does not qualify as the right species amongst human beings. So it's very smart. Yes, of course, you're right when you say that there has been an escalation in few things such as anxiety and depression. Do understand that when we are talking about anxiety and depression, we are talking about people who are really not in the moment. People who are depressed are the ones who are regretting what they did in the past, right? For example, if I were to think about why did I not choose the right subjects in standard 11 and that my direction would have changed, I really can't do a thing about it, right? So what's the point looking back? So people who are depressed are usually oriented towards what might have happened in the past. People who are anxious are bothered by what will happen in the future, right? They want to have an absolute, correct game plan sorted out and handed over to them as if you know what's going to happen by the end of 2021 and what would 2022 unfold and what will happen in 2025. No, life doesn't really work that way. You have to take it as it comes. Remember, the first thing that I said was managing stresses of everyday life. So while you talk about this, let me give you very, very simple tips here. The first one, I'm so glad that there are these girls here. The first tip is really targeted at girls, and that's about assertiveness. You remember, we're not talking about aggressiveness. Assertiveness is about standing up for yourself, right? Without encroaching on the rights of other people. So when you express yourself, when you say things that you feel you need to, whether it be an abuse and say, oh, please don't repeat that word for me the next time, right? I don't like it, right? You are setting certain boundaries. That's very important. Yet another thing that would be connected to what altruism really means is expanding your social network, right? I'm sure, young people like you might have seen a circus at some point of time, right? Have you ever seen that trapeze act? The one on which, there's this jula right up there and people keep jumping and catching onto another person's leg and then coming back to a vacant jula also magically, right? But you would have never seen a circus act without the net at the base, right? Despite those artists being very trained, very professional, and very experienced, they would never do that act without the net in the below, right there, a few feet above the ground. Why? There's a very strong logic, and I'm drawing a parallel between what I was saying. If for any technical reason you slip from there, the net is going to hold you. And then you can climb back and get back onto the app. In certain very meaningful ways, which at times, can be real big surprises in life, we can also slip and fall. We can also make mistakes. We can also fall sick. There could be a calamity at home, right? You could lose someone who's really close to you. That's akin to slipping from the trapeze and falling. But then you don't come down crashing onto the ground because there is this network of people who would hold you, right? So while it's extremely important to be on, hello, hi, good morning relationship with several people, those are basic courtesies that are required. However, that does not mean that you should not have close bonding with people. Why? Because what do at times people go to psychologists for? To speak their heart out, to pour their heart out to the psychologist. What if you have a psychologist in the form of a relative, a friend, a neighbor, a teacher, a mentor? You probably don't even need services of people like us, right? Here's where I would draw your attention to very wisely investing in social relationships, because that will come in very handy. And while you do things for other people in the form of those small altruistic acts, you also invite them to be doing a reciprocal act for you. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. So that's my suggestion to what stress management really can be sort of managed with in people as young as you.
Thank you so much, sir.
One of the parents present today has raised a very interesting question. I would like to call upon Arindam Som sir to please go ahead with his question.
Hi, my question to you is, among us, there are many parents who want their child to go abroad for the studies. So how can altruistic behavior, if at all developed in the child, help them survive, sustain, and adapt in the foreign environment?
Okay, that's a very relevant question, Mr. Som. First of all, let me tell you that, having been educated in psychotherapy abroad, and also, as I mentioned, a cultural ambassador to another country, I've seen all this happen very, very frequently, right? And to me, there are these core elements that become very important, right? Now, it need not really be something that you practice while you're abroad, because that's another culture, another set of people with possibly different values as well. However, the basics would still remain the same. That is, when you put others before yourself, right? When you think how your actions are going to impact other people, you would have struck a very meaningful chord with people all around, right? All around the world. Why? Because when we talk about human beings and the psychology, we are essentially the same species, right? So while you give priority to other people, while you are very proactive, whether it be in India or abroad, right? And while you possess a healthy degree of self-confidence, you do something really meaningful, which really cannot go unnoticed anywhere, right? Yes, of course, there are certain cultures where, service becomes very important, service to other people. There are certain other cultures which are far more individualistic. Irrespective of what those cultures might be, some of these characteristics that I just mentioned happen to be very powerfully noticed and reciprocated. So, well, absolutely, whether the students are going abroad or maybe, beyond Kolkata for education, these characteristics are likely to come in very handy.
Right. Thank you so much.
Sir, I want to ask you something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were my professor, psychology professor in my college years, and I remember you have asked, you have told us numerous stories about your bond with your father and with you. So, and sir, in 2017, when you launched your first book, Everyday Psychology, you have written a few lines dedicating your father, which were very expressive lines. I would like to read out
those lines to the audience. To my father, Dr. Suresh Mishra, who never told me how to live, he lives and let me watch with the freedom of interpreting it my way. So, sir, I would like you to say how the bond you and your father shared helped you get where you are today.
Okay, let me begin, Sonali. How good it is to see you after such a long time, right?
Thank
Yes,
you,
of
sir.
course,
It's
I
your
remember
first
you from my psychology class, and all these students who are there. At some point of time, you are going to be contacting your teachers, and they're going to be saying the same thing for you. Just wait for that time to come by. But Sonali was absolutely a very, very diligent student in my class several years ago, right? So for the question that you asked, Sonali, let me tell you that it's not uncommon for people to make mistakes, right? In fact, I was highlighting that for these young people because it really comes with experience. For example, I made this huge mistake in school of choosing physics, chemistry, mathematics, right? Good subjects, not for me, right? And while I decided to change tracks to humanities, I really got a very negative feedback from several people, but not my parents. I would be eternally grateful for them, to them for having supported me with subjects like fine arts and geography and psychology, right? They never said that the smartest people become engineers, which is exactly what the belief was at that particular point of time. So, uh, and then yeah, as I went along, in my introduction, it was said that I cleared the combined defense services, but then I decided to join teaching, and never did I really hear them say, "Oh, why did you do it in the first place? What are you doing? This is not right." Right? In fact, I was given a lot of opportunity to assess what they were doing, both my parents, to make up my own mind and take ownership of the decisions. Right? That my father was very particular about. That okay, you decide to change tracks from the mathematics stream to humanities. Now, do you think you'd be able to cope up with a subject as diverse as geography and psychology or possibly fine arts, right? And I said, yeah, I think I can. He said, okay, go ahead, right? And I think that's exactly what brought about this change. Talking about the Antarctic expedition, talking about, sort of graduating from doing my doctorate in psychology to then specializing in psychotherapy, were things that never met with a negative response from parents. And I think that encouragement has really instilled a lot of positivity within me. So I believe, for the parents who might be there, I at least met one, Arindam, possibly there are others as well. Yes, of course, it's our responsibility to guard the interests of our children. However, we need not necessarily be the best ones to do so. There are teachers. There's this wonderful school called Julian Day, which has counselors like Sonali, who are at it all the time. I mean, we ran a conversation a few times and messages while she contacted me. Well, there are these people who are out there to help them. And what about they themselves? They too can guard their interests. So let's not believe that it's only the elderly people who are the wisest people. No, no, no. I told you we are jealous of Generation Z. You are smart people. Have that powerfully etched in your mind, and you will see yourself taking the right decisions and progressing very meaningfully through life, right? Thank you so much, Sonali, for the invitation, and so wonderful to be here with the school that you're connected with. Right. You're muted, Sonali.
Thank you so much, sir, for your so encouraging words. I hope my children will be so much enriched with whatever you have shared. And not even children, I think my parents would also be very much enriched by your wise words. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Introducing our next panelist, Chandraji, please, the screen is all yours.
Introducing our next panelist, Dr. Praveen Kumar, who is a consultant child and adolescent psychiatrist who is working with Institute of Neurosciences, Kolkata. He has completed 2 years postdoctoral fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry from Christian Medical College, Vellore. His areas of interest are developmental psychiatry, neuropsychiatry, dissociative and somatoform disorders in children with ASD, and also actively involved in research on development regression in children with autism. He has presented papers at World ADHD Congress in Canada, in ESCAP Congress at Munich. He has received certificate in pediciary properties and pediciary psychopharmacology. Dr. Praveen Kumar is also the head of the Department Neuropsychology at Institute of Neurosciences, Kolkata. He has organized nation CHEs on adolescent mental health, school mental health, and webinars for teachers. Praveen sir, the screen is all yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. So, good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Sonali and Principal Madam for inviting me for this such a wonderful webinar on a very interesting topic. And first of all, I want to just congratulate all of you, sir, for fantastically organizing such a webinar. I'm feeling very happy to see all young students organizing in such a wonderful fashion. So it's a very interesting topic. I think, like altruism and resilience. So let's talk about resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is the ability to adopt successfully in adverse situations or like in stressful situations. So we all know that COVID pandemic itself is a stressful situation for a last 2 years. It is for everyone. It is for all age group. I see children from very young age as 3-year, 4-year affected with stress to age group of like 70, 80 years presenting with depression and anxiety. So like COVID pandemic has caused not only through through viral illness, it is because of multiple psychosocial factors. I'm seeing a lot of kids, students. It's because of the isolation experience. It is because of the loss of a family member. So it's because of the fear of contracting COVID. It is because of fear of death of family member. So it has put a big toll on all of us. And students, as you all know that now you have got adjusted to a new mode of learning, which is called online learning. So it's a very hard, we as an adults, like to focus for a period of 1 hour in a webinar, we find it difficult. And you people are doing online education for a period of online classes for maybe for a period of 5 to 6 hours, even including tuitions. So it's a very tough. It's not an easy to concentrate in online learning. So, but still, what is this? This is the called resilience. Resilience means we have innate ability in all of us, which we can adopt to the stressful situations. So that's called resilience. So you know that these stressful situations cause a lot of anxiety, depression, PTSD symptoms in children, adolescents, adults. Like those who have exposed to such stressful situations develop this anxiety, depression, and other PTSD symptoms. But there are some individuals, despite after getting exposed to such very stressful situations, were not found to have this anxiety, depressive, and other symptoms. And people looked into why these people are so resilient, why these people are not developing such symptoms. So that's what like the research looked into, and maybe that thing will help us to learn certain factors which will help us to be resilient. So people looked into like what are some factors which were like, for example, even the research was done after the World War II. You know, World War II, during the World War II, people, some people who were helping others, they were found to be very resilient. Like immediately aftermath of the war, people who were helping others, taking them to the nearest centers. So these people were found to be very resilient. So what are the some factors which are responsible, which predict that you're resilient? So after all, the first important thing is genetic factors. That means there are some people are genetically resilient. That means there are certain genes or certain phenotypes which put you because of that you are resilient. Even for example, a lot of students, lot of adults or get exposed to the stress, severe stress, but only few of them develop anxiety, few of them develop depression and other symptoms. But most of the people try to cope with the situations. So this some people have certain genes are responsible for the resilience. And what are the other factors? Other factors is like developmental environment. That means childhood environment is the biggest factor which determines how we will be resilient as an adult. Childhood environment means like those with a very positive family environment, where there is a strong positive bond between a parent and a child. So that is called, we say sometimes in psychology, as a secure attachment. Those who have got a good secure attachment, where there's a good bonding between for the parent and a child. So these people are like in adults, they are very resilient. So positive bonding between a parent and a child. Second important thing is like a support from teachers, support from the friends. It itself is a factor which will determine the resilience. And some third factor is like the altruism, which I will be coming to. So the child, how, because those people who have got childhood trauma, experience some kind of stress in the during the childhood, they are at risk for certain anxiety, depressive symptoms. So childhood environment is a very important. That's why I tell all parents that when you have got a very good attachment with your kid, or like the adolescents who has got a very good attachment with the parent, they are whatever may be the external influences, they are still protected. Because see, we need somebody to talk to. See, most of the time when we are in stress, the first thing we try to communicate to our parents. But if there is no that communication, if there is a block in that, if there is a distance in that, that is when we get under stress. Because it's very important to communicate to any of the either family member or friend when we are in stress. So that's why this parent-child relationship is the biggest predictor for resilience in adults. So and what are some individual factors? Who are the individuals like who are resilient? Like that means even when they are exposed to stress, they manage well. So what are some of the predictive? Some of the factors are, one is being optimistic. That's very important. Being optimistic in the adverse situation will help you to become more resilient. So research found that those adolescents, those adults who were being optimistic, those who were optimistic, they were found to be more resilient. What is the second factor they found in personal individual factor is cognitive flexibility. What is cognitive flexibility? It is ability to assess. If you get some negative emotions, ability to assess those negative emotions and replace it with positive emotions. So this is called cognitive flexibility. Those who have some good cognitive flexibility, being flexible, so helps you to become more resilient in face of adversity. And what are some third important factor is like having a good social support. So support of family members, support of teachers will help you to make resilient. And what are some other factors which helps in resilience are doing physical exercise, humor. So these are all traits which makes us resilient during the stressful time. And the last factor, which is the topic of discussion today, is altruism. So this ability to help others, it itself is the big predictor of the resilience. What is altruism? As you all know, it's being discussed just in the last this one session. Like it's like a selfless concern for well-being of others. Although altruism can manifest in different ways, like donating to charities, volunteering to any actively participate in some projects. So it is the altruism is like a genetic gift of helpfulness. So it is found that it is the altruism that helps us in increasing the happiness, self-satisfaction, and accomplishment. So it is so as a parent, like teaching the kids to help others. So it makes them resilient. And also, I would like to, there is a called helicopter view. What is helicopter view? Is like rather than focusing on the issues where your students are struggling, focus on their abilities. Where like for example, helping others, or be like some other skills in which they are doing well. So promoting these skills will help them to a greater extent. So like as I said. So we are born with this innate tendency to communicate, innate tendency to help others. So we need to nurture these skills, like it is from the parent point of view, teacher point of view, school point of view, so that like if children can learn these skills during the childhood, it will help them to a greater extent in adults. What is the bottom line is, am I audible? There was some.
Yes, sir. Now
Hello?
you are.
Yeah, sorry. So the bottom line is like what I want to say is there are two factors which are very important. Being self-compassionate is the one factor which predicts resilience. Self-compassion means let's be kind to ourselves. I've seen a lot of students, adults coming with this like perfection tendency. What is perfection tendency? No, I should do this. I should complete it. I should definitely achieve this. If I am able to do, I am good. Otherwise, I am a failure. If I have to achieve, I have to get only this much percentage only. If I do not get that percentage, there is no point in giving exam. So see, let's be kind to ourselves. This is the first important thing. Like for all students, see, yes, we have to do well. It's a competitive this one, so we have to do well. We have to put a lot of effort, but not at the cost of self-blaming. We have to remove this tendency called self-blaming. Let's not criticize ourselves. Okay, no, I'm not good. I'm not. No, I am always a failure. I can't do this. I'm always poor in this. So this thing will put us under more stress and anxiety. So let's say that let's be kind to ourselves. Let's say that okay, this is the pandemic time, or everyone is stressed, so everyone is not able to do at their best. So let me be kind to myself. Okay, I will try. So being kind to yourself, it doesn't mean that you are not putting any effort. Yes, you are putting it effort, but you're not blaming yourself. See, we need to avoid this self-critical thing. So that's very important. Perfectionist, yes, you have to do well, you have to prepare well. So you have to prepare well for the exam, that's fine. So but let's not be like, no, if I achieve this, then only I'm a good person, otherwise I'm a bad person. No. So these we need to, so that's why being compassionate towards yourself and others is the biggest factor which will help in resilience. And the second important thing is cohesiveness. Darwin in 1908 found that like one factor which is associated with resilience, those who were working in a group, they were found to be more resilient. For example, this is the platform where you all people are working in a group. You see, this itself creates an environment like where you become resilient. And even research have looked into that people who were teaching others the resilience, they automatically become resilient. That is called reciprocal resilience. That means we are just discussing about the resilience. It itself make you resilient in face of adversity. So that's why the being working in a group, it helps in a greater extent. So when we are in stress, when we are anxiety, there are some people to talk. Like we need to talk. Always important is remember that whenever you face any adverse situation, whenever you are in stress, you have to talk either to a family member. If most of the time it happens that certain issues we cannot discuss with a family member, so there is a like we also won't feel comfortable talking to for parents. Parents also won't feel comfortable talking to you about certain issues. So that's the time where we get into crisis. So that is the time you need to talk to your friends. There are, yes, we need to look for this, what is that called, non-judgmental friends, huh? Non-judgment, it's although difficult to get non-judgmental friends, but it's there. Like there are definite good friends. Everyone can their own find their own comfortable or non-judgmental friend. So because talking to just one friend about when you are in stress, it's like a psychologist. It's like as our previous doctor said, like that itself is a therapeutic. So it's important, as I said. So talk to your friends, talk to your teacher, talk to your psychologist. You have your school is enriched with a very good psychologist who is helping in organizing such an event. So talk to the psychologist. See, because talking itself is the therapeutic. So most of our problems. So because taking support is a very important thing. We know that yes, there are people to give us support, but if we do not seek support, then we are at risk. So seek the support, whoever whom you get comfortable, talk to them. That's a very important. And as I said, do not criticize yourself. I tell 3 words to all of you. You just practice this. Always say, I'm good, I'm best, I can do it. So these things you have to, these positive affirmations are very, very important. Right? So I love myself. This is very, very important. So you have to tell, like, I love myself. So this will put you in. See, everyone has got unique talents. Somebody, see, why we are talking about altruism. See, because see, I see a lot of kids in my clinic, and I ask them a few questions. Acha, can you tell me one very good experience in your school life and one very bad experience in school life, just to incline into what is happening with them. And I found that few children say like, okay, I got this percentage, I got this medal. And I have seen a very good number of kids and children saying that I helped them, I helped these kids, I helped them. So this itself was also a very proud factor for them. So that itself is an altruism. So that way, so these are the things. So everyone has a unique talent. Somebody is very good at education, somebody is very good at organizing, somebody is very good at public speaking, somebody is very good at arts. So here it's like in either Western countries, Indian countries, what is the difference? This I tell to all parents, like who are parents. See, in Southeast Asian countries, we focus only on academics. And we think that like academics is the only way to get success in the life. But this is not the same in Western countries. If you go to America, like where innate qualities are very important. Somebody is very good at a particular, say any other skill, they are being nurtured, they are being reinforced. So it's so we have to think that so that's the very important thing. So always do not criticize yourself, appreciate. I love myself, I am good at, I can do this. So these are the things very important. And as I said, be compassionate and be kind to yourself. That itself will make you more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wise words. We have a student called Ishika too here. She wants to ask you a question.
Thank you, sir, for your message. So actually, speaking of altruism, some of our parents might be having a question that how are altruistic traits going to help their children in making a perfect choice career-wise? So, sir, if you could kindly answer that question.
Yeah. So that's a good question. Like how altruism can be a like those who are good at helping others, what careers they can choose. So if we brainstorm ourselves, what are the careers in which people help others? So if you see that, like you can see there are a lot of professions. In fact, like there are very good number. First of all, teaching itself is a first profession where teachers help students, help others. So teaching profession, medical profession, where you see that like the COVID pandemic was going on, but we had to help because this is the like it's a situation where you need to help. You need to help your clients. You need to help your patients. So medical profession, nursing profession. Nursing, some people see some more like if you see there are some states in our country, and if you go outside and all the nursing profession, see nursing there it's like they are integral part of the medical team. Like they dictate the doctor, you have to do this. That if you go to the west, so these are all respected professions. So somebody who is very good at it's called altruistic personality. We say altruistic personality means somebody who want to help others spontaneously, not at the request of others, like spontaneously they want to just help. So those with the altruistic personalities, maybe they can choose careers like a medical profession, nursing profession, teaching profession. All these profession involves helping others.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I would like to ask you one question. Sir, there are three components to overall human health. Physical, emotional, and psychic. Mostly you spoke about the physical benefits of altruistic traits. So does it help increase our emotional and psychic abilities? If so, how?
Yes, see, the altruism, it also, it's, as I said, like even the research I was saying about the World War II, the people found that in that World War II, those who had already pre-existing some kind of emotional issues, even these people during the World War, like when they were helping others post World War, they found that these anxiety pre-existing symptoms were also decreased. That means helping others will improve your own self-confidence. You won't develop empathy, so it will help you to give a perspective, like how you take the things. So the repeatedly research has said that this altruism predicts the positive emotional health. But at the same time, there is another research which found that in the recently COVID pandemic, this altruism can also have negative emotional health. How altruism can, so in COVID pandemic, you want to help others, but you are not able to help because you are isolated. So those people who wanted to help others, but they were not able to help others because they were in isolated and they were in a lockdown situation. So that itself sometimes creates anxiety in certain people. So having said that, there are both views, but most of the time it's like altruism which predicts the positive emotional health. It's like a safeguard against anxiety, depression, and other emotional disorders. So it's a very good very important thing, like to schools and to have such a curriculum where the children are trained very early age to be altruistic, so that this will have a long-term impact on their emotional health in long run. So this program is a wonderful example for that.
Thank you so much, sir, for your such a wonderful words. And you yourself have introduced our next section of our program. So I will be asking Sujoy to take over. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing experiences, amazing knowledge, all we are getting today. And before we move on to our next section, I would just like to ask whether Srabasti ma'am is here. We had a question for her. Is Srabasti ma'am here?
Yes, I'm. Yes, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we had a question for you. Rajnandini is going to ask a question to you. Rajnandini, over to you.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
ম্যাম আপনার কথাগুলো শুনে আমি একটা আপনাকে প্রশ্ন করতে চাই সেটা হলো এই ভয়ঙ্কর মহামারী পরিস্থিতিতে যে আপনি নিজের প্রাণে ঝুঁকি নিয়েছেন এবং জনসাধারণের মধ্যে প্রয়োজনীয় সামগ্রী বিতরণ করেছেন। এই কাজগুলো করতে আপনাকে কি অনুপ্রাণিত করলো এবং কোনো এনজিও বা সংস্থা কি আপনাকে সহায়তা করেছে? এই ব্যাপারে যদি আমাদের কিছু বলতে পারেন।
থ্যাংক ইউ ফর দ্য কোয়েশ্চেন। প্রথমত না, কোনো এনজিও বা সংস্থার থেকে সাহায্য করেনি বা নিইনি। তার কারণ হচ্ছে প্রথমত এটা তো আমি আমার ক্যাপাসিটি থেকে আমার যতটুকুন ক্ষমতার মধ্যে আছে ততটুকুন সেখান থেকেই করার কথা ভেবেছিলাম এবং সেইভাবে শুরু হয়েছিল। তবে আমার এটা বলতে খুব ভালো লাগে যে অচেনা অজানা অনেক মানুষ এগিয়ে আসছেন, কারণ তার এগিয়ে এসেছিলেন সেই সময়। কেউ আর্থিক সাহায্যের হাত বাড়িয়ে দিয়ে, কেউ এসেছিলেন কিছু প্রয়োজনীয় জিনিসপত্র কিনে দেওয়ার জন্য, কারণ সকলেরই মনে হয়েছিল যে কাজটাকে অনেকদিন ধরে চালিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য এবং কাজটাকে আরো অনেক বেশি মানুষের মধ্যে ছড়িয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য অর্থের তো প্রয়োজন এবং কনস্ট্যান্ট জিনিসপত্রের যোগানেরও প্রয়োজন, এবং একা মানুষের পক্ষে যতটা না সম্ভব তার থেকে অনেকগুলো হাত এগিয়ে এলে কাজটা অনেক বেশি সহজ হয়। সেই জন্য অনেক অচেনা মানুষ এগিয়ে আসেন। এবং কি আমাকে অনুপ্রাণিত করেছিল জানো, এটা বলা খুব মুশকিল। ওরকম অনেকগুলো মানে ওরকম ভাবে পয়েন্ট করে একটা হচ্ছে যে আমার মনে হয়েছিল যে জরুরি কাজটা করা, খুব জরুরি, কারণ প্রয়োজন। এখান থেকে কাজটা শুরু হয়েছিল। কিন্তু তারপর দেখা গেল ধরো যখন দিচ্ছি কাউকে, 14 দিন পরে তারা জানাচ্ছেন যে আমরা সুস্থ হয়ে গেছি আর আমাদের খাবার প্রয়োজন হবে না। এই যে সুস্থ হয়ে যাওয়ার খবরটা, এবং আস্তে আস্তে যখন 50 দিন পরে ফোন কল গুলো কমতে থাকলো, খাবারের প্রয়োজনটা কমলো, এই যে মানুষ সুস্থ হচ্ছেন, আমি যতটুকুন আমার ক্ষমতার মধ্যে, আমার সাধ্যের মধ্যে থেকে তাদের কাছে এগিয়ে আসতে পেরেছি, এগিয়ে যেতে পেরেছিলাম, তাতে যে সবাই একসঙ্গে বেরোতে পারছি, এই খবরগুলো অনেক বেশি উৎসাহ দিত, অনেক বেশি অনুপ্রাণিত করতো কাজটাকে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য।
Thank you so much, ma'am. Just like Saurabh sir also told, that the results, the smile on the faces of the people you help, of the family you help, you reach out to, is a great motivating factor. 2 parts of our session is done. The third part here starts, and that is, as an institution, our school is not only involved in giving education. It does field work. We have SUPW thing in our mark sheet. And how does our school give this impetus to our students to go forward with it? And so we have to enlist in front of you certain of our endeavors, and to do so, I am calling our former captain of our school, Junaid Javed, to enlist and elaborate on our outreach programs. Over to you, Junaid.
Thank you, Sajay Bhaiya. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. We are here to heal, not harm. We are here to love, not hate. We are here to create, not destroy. We are individuals. We cannot do everything, but we can do something. And we will not let what we cannot do interfere with what we can do. Together with our respected Managing Trustee Broughton ma'am, respected Chairman sir, Principal ma'am, Vice Principal sir, Junior Coordinator sir, staff, parents, teachers and students, Julian Day School Kolkata took an initiative to reach out to the underprivileged members of our society. And that marked the beginning of the outreach program of our school. On the 2nd of July, the Group D staff were distributed a bag containing food grains and other essential commodities. And in that initiative, we took a step from human being to being human. On the 11th of July, the second outreach program was organized at Northern Park by our school with the collaboration of our Bhawanipur Police Station and the Kolkata Police and the Honorable Councillor of Ward number 70, Mr. Oshim Bose. As we reached Northern Park at around 9 AM, we saw the underprivileged members of our society strictly following the COVID protocols and standing in a proper line. And that fascinated us. They were so patient, and the food grains and the commodities were distributed by the members of the JDS family. And even a wet spell, a heavy shower could not dampen their spirits. So it was a mission well accomplished. And we feel proud to have helped them. And at the end of the day, they returned home with a smile on their faces. And as a member of JDS, I feel happy that we could prove that sharing is caring. Thank you. And now, after the slideshow is shown, I would request Nairit, the present school vice captain, to elaborate on the initiative they had taken to help the elderly people and to elaborate on the topic of altruism. Thank you.
So this was in short our outreach program. And now we have one initiative to be introduced. Junaid already invited. Nairvik, please take over.
Thank you. Having thus reached through the outreach program, collectively, a thought arose in the mind of Counselor Ma'am in order to reach out to the needy individually. She made a blueprint and easy to do for us students. And then under the supervision and wholehearted support and guidance of our principal ma'am, we made our initiation. We were supposed to keep a check on the well-being of a person who doesn't have that immediate person to depend upon or who stays alone, maybe a neighbor or a person in our complex whose children have settled elsewhere. We were asked to inquire on call whether what they were doing, whether they required any essentials, or whether we could provide help which they required. How this entire idea took form is a riveting story. Now I would like to call upon Sanj Banerjee, one of the prefects, to please enlighten us with that story yourself.
Thank you, Nairit Bhaiya. I would like to start with my story. A very true incident happened with me, and which makes me really happy knowing that I'm helping somebody, and one phone call of mine to that person is going to brighten up that person's day. So it was a normal day, and me and my mom were waiting in the ATM queue to withdraw some money. And an old man was already using the ATM. I had observed that he was having some trouble with the machine, so I stepped in and helped him. And from that day onwards, I became like a granddaughter to him, and I'd speak to him every day. I'd call him up. Sometimes Dadu would call me up, and he would ask me where have I been, and how's my school going, and I would ask him about his day. He would tell me stories, and that's how we shared such a beautiful bond. And I'm beyond joyful about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanj. I would now invite the prefects, captains, house captains, vice captains of all the 4 branches to join in this initiative so that it reaches out to the masses and to make this entire drive a grand success. And it just gives out the message that we can do many things individually. Moreover, it doesn't require much effort to take care of a person who is in need, and after all, to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nairit. The 3 parts of our session. One, being the guest speaker's practical experience. I must tell that the program has been planned very well, because we usually say in school and in colleges that teaching should be both practical and theoretical. And we had the practical aspect, as Nairit told in the beginning itself, that we had the practical aspect by the guest speakers. Then we had the theoretical aspect by our psychologists and psychiatrists. And then we had the result of it in the form of outreach programs and initiatives. So we are steadily moving towards the end of our program. But before we do, we have a small surprise for you all, so you can wait. And of course, a Thanksgiving note, which is imminent and which is what follows. So our sincere thanks to our Managing Trustee, Sheila Broughton Ma'am, Chairman Broughton Sir, and Director of Education, Derek Sir, for their quick decisions and unwavering faith in us. Heartiest thanks to Principal Colin Ma'am, the most approachable, if I give her a title, the most approachable, under whose supervision and direction we worked unrestrictedly and freely. Thanks to our guests who added colors of joy, hope, positivity, and vision to our webinar. Miss Aksa, Miss Srabasti, and Mr. Saurabh Shayamsukha, you have all given us an idea outside the scope of maybe our limits for the time being, but something which will become a to-do in our lists when we come to your stage. Maybe a big thank you to both Dr. Vinay Mishra sir and Dr. Praveen Kumar sir for taking out time from the very busy schedules. Esteemed personalities as they are, they have given us 2 hours of the precious time and knowledge and expertise. Thank you for being here and enlightening us on the aspects of altruism, resilient power, and a certain attachment with our parents and family. Thanks to Vice Principal Troy sir, Coordinator Stanley sir, the teachers and staff of Julian Day School who provided us all the help we sought for from time to time. Thanks to all students and parents for collaborating and coordinating well. The success of this program actually depended upon you, and hopefully it has succeeded. The one who set all wheels in motion, who envisioned the idea of this very program, of this webinar in the first place, on whose humble invitation we had the panelists with us. I applaud the efforts of our counselor Sonali ma'am. Last but not the least, to the audience today for being patient and a great listener. We hope you took from this webinar knowledge and inspiration, positivity, and a sense of something to do for the society without actually expecting any gains. Thank you. And now, as and before you depart, a song, nostalgic and very to the point, remade by our students for you. Hope you get the meaning. I'm just sharing the screen for you all.
किसी के मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है।
किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है।
माना अपनी जेब से फकीर हैं, फिर भी यारो दिल के हम अमीर हैं। माना अपनी जेब से फकीर हैं, फिर भी यारो दिल के हम अमीर हैं। मिटे जो प्यार के लिए वो जिंदगी, जले बहार के लिए वो जिंदगी, किसी को हो ना हो हमें तो एतबार, जीना इसी का नाम है।
किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो तेरे दिल में प्यार, जीना इसी का नाम है।
Prepared by two of our students, Chandrajit Saraswat and Sherry. This was a song, a very famous song, Jeena Isi Ka Naam Hai. And I am just singing a line again from the song, which is, Kisi ko ho na ho, hame to aitabar. Maybe people do not care, but we do. And on that note, I end this program. Thank you all for attending, for adding up to this program with your esteemed presence. Thank you. I may end the meeting now. The host may end the meeting now. Thank you.